Hello and welcome everyone. Now we are going to learn about the memory. So this is the memory part. So let's start with the basics first. So this is the basic concept and hierarchy. So this is our input and output process that is going to be responsible to give the input and process it and then give us the output. Surely in between there are the registers and the memory. That is our core focus here. So there is magnetic tapes that attached to it, and the CPU is attached to the main memory so that it can read and operate and process. So what does CPU do? Actually it process, and for the processing it needs the memory, and that memory is called as main memory, as I have shown here. It is two-way attachment. Okay, there is also one special kind of the memory that is called the cache memory, that we are going to see that how the cache memory changed the entire game of you and me looking at the scenario. So basically the memory is very basic element in computer system that is used to store. That simple it is. The memory's work is to store. Memory stores. It can store the data. That's it. Well, it stores the data. Memory stores data. That's all the thing it is having. Now, let's start with the basics of the keyword like main memory. What is the main memory? Well, as the name suggests, this is the main memory, means we cannot operate without this. One of the reason of naming it is this one. Okay, now let's see that what is the main memory. The memory unit that communicates directly, well, the name indicates main memory. Let me write it. Main memory communicates directly with the CPU, communicates directly with CPU. Well, we already have seen that here. In this scenario, main memory is directly communicating with the CPU. Well, let's proceed. Now, the second keyword that we are going to learn here is the auxiliary memory. That was not actually mentioned up in the diagram. So we are having auxiliary memory. What does the auxiliary memory actually mean? Well, the memory unit that provides the backup storage. So it is the backup storage is called auxiliary memory. Is called auxiliary memory. That's it. That's all what we want to know about the auxiliary memory. Rest all the features. Let's discuss few of its features too, like auxiliary memory, sometimes also called as secondary memory. We can call them secondary memory because there also we can store our backup files and all that things. Okay, with all that said, let's come up to the new points that we are having in the auxiliary memory. Well, examples for the auxiliary memory we discussed. So we can have the magnetic tapes that were old days, surely, but still we study them because that was the basic. That's how that started. And we have optical discs. Optical discs. Well, nowadays we have so many more things, but that's it for the example one. They used to store large backup file. They used to store large backup file. So this was the case earlier, and now what we can use the pen drive, we can use our hard drive. So these are the things that we use these days. So this is the earliest of the form, that was many tapes and optical discs. Okay, So only those information or instructions that are needed by the CPU for execution of program are resided in main memory. Well, did you got my point? Well, main memory do not contains everything. Main memory, well, we are again talking about the main memory because auxiliary memory is the backup of that main memory, in somewhat like kind of thing. Not technically, it's the secondary memory. Yes, you're right, it's not related, it's the secondary memory. We are now talking about the main memory. So main memory keeps all instructions data for CPU that helps in executing instruction. So that's all of the use of the main memory. Now we can proceed to the next level of the abstraction, which is our cache memory. So let's see that what is the cache memory. You can delete the cache memory many times often by going and digging out in your website, like Chrome gives or allows you to. Sometimes you can keep the cache memory, sometimes you can destroy the cache memory. That's completely upon you. Well, what the cache memory actually do? Well, it keeps a small, I'm just explaining it first, then we will establish its definition right here. A small piece of address. It keeps a small piece of address on, and on that basis a cookie from sites, from websites or sites are there in our memory, and it stays so that whenever you are going to open it again, it can open it quickly. Well, that's the whole work of it. So now let's establish its definition, that what is the cache memory. Well, a cache memory is a very high speed memory. Well, you can ask that why we don't use the cache memory all the time. Well, surely we can use that, but it will get insanely expensive. That's why we don't use it. And till this point of the time I'm teaching, we don't have any kind of the technology that can actually do something about it, about its expenses. Like if you increase the number of the buses, routes and all that things that we use, like you start more number of lines or segments, so that much is the cost. And not just the cost, but the space also that it occupy increases. That's why we used to ignore that, but still we use few chunks of it so that we can make the processing fast, so it gives us fast processing. So it is used to increase speed of processing. That's the key use for it. By providing data, now I'm telling you the mechanism that it provide the data to the CPU at very high rate. So everything, if you look it very closely, we are talking about the increase, we are talking about the speed and all about the speed. So speed of the cache memory is always almost equal to the CPU, which helps to compensate the speed of the difference between main memory and CPU. Like CPU wants some information from the main memory, so what we can do, we can place the cache here, that is called cache memory. Well, if the cache memory knows the address, like the pointer in the case of the programming, if you are familiar with, you surely know about this. Or otherwise you can just simply say that there is a society. Let's say the main memory is the society where we have so many addresses. Now cache memory knows or have indexed all those addresses. Now when the CPU wants a particular data from a particular address, it just consult the cache memory, and cache memory directly goes to the home where it wants to have the data, where it wants to fetch the data. Like in this case here, from this point we can fetch this data and can provide the CPU that data. So it is so fast, and almost the speed of the CPU is equal to the cache memory, so that it can compensate from the CPU to main memory time, because it takes time to fetch the data, fetch the instruction, and then put it into the CPU for the processing. Main memory keeps the data. Let's keep the things very clear. Main memory keeps the data and CPU process the data. So this is their relation. So it required to travel in both the direction very quickly, but there is a time lag. Like CPU has to go in that society of the main memory, had to go door to door to door. It is having address, but it takes time to reach to that address. But the cache memory is a kind of shortcut that we have. We can reach to that place directly, and that's the magic of cache memory. Sometimes we used to keep the cache memory inside the CPU, that makes it even faster. We make two cache memory of 8 bits, that even insanely fast. We are going to discuss that in just a while, in some time. Well, that's it for this one. Well, I kept this video quite short so that we can understand the main memories such as the RAM and ROM. Well, I am pretty much sure that you surely have heard about the RAM and ROM. So we are going to discuss the RAM and ROM, which are the key component. Every person who uses the computer knows about it somehow, even a little bit, or as an engineer we have to know it in a greater detailed way. So we are going to study about that in the next one. Till that time, take care, God bless, and see you in the next one. Sayonara.